Welcome to CUTV News Radio, where our hosts Doug Llewellyn and Jim Masters talk to today's top thinkers from all around the world to bring you information, inspiration, and thought-provoking ideas that you can put to use in your personal or professional life right now. Covering a broad range of topics, we dig deep to discover what makes today's top thinkers tick. CUTV News Radio. It's the show where ideas matter. And now, here's today's host, Doug Llewellyn.
Well, hello, everybody. Once again, we welcome you back to CUTV News Radio. This is going to be a fascinating discussion. What do you think about when I mention the word bullying? I'll bet you $5 the first thing you think about is children being bullied in school, teenagers bullying other teenagers, and how bad it can be for them. But we're going to be talking about bullying in a whole new aspect today. We're going to focus on workplace bullying, where people on the job are being bullied by other people on the job and the problems it can cause. It's a subject that, quite frankly, I've never talked about on the radio. I've never had a guest who focuses on this subject, and I really didn't think it was that serious. Maybe I've been lucky because I don't think I've been bullied on the job, in the workplace. But apparently, there are a lot of people who are bullying. And not only that, but did you know there is a Workplace Bullying Institute? That's right. And according to the Institute, over 65 million people in the United States are affected by workplace bullying. And today, it remains a harrowing epidemic. These are statistics and a subject I had no knowledge of, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're in the same boat as I am. And anyway, the Workplace Bullying Institute, I think, is located in Seattle. And according to them, workplace bullying is defined as the recurrent exploitation of an employee by one or more other employees, including abusive conduct that is either verbal, threatening, humiliating, or intimidating. Workplace bullying can have a devastating effect on one's physical and mental health, and that's understandable. I grasp that. So if you are one who is continually being harassed at your office, the question is, how can you effectively stop it from happening in the first place? Well, our guest is kind of an expert on this subject. Her name is Dr. Clara Wajngurt. She is a top-notch executive coach, author, a speaker. She's a mathematics professor at CUNY University and the founder and owner of Bullying Prevention Consulting. It's a coaching firm, a consulting firm, and she's based in New York City. She's a devoted, passionate expert in the self-development and empowering of as many individuals as she can possibly help. She wholeheartedly cares about others, and her goal is to help them overcome any workplace concerns and issues they are confronted with. She points out she's always encouraged and inspired her students and colleagues to take charge of their lives, to set goals, and make constructive choices. She first became acquainted with the issues of bullying as a young college professor when she was alerted to people being bullied on campus. She was deeply concerned about it when she heard that, and she began speaking out and adamantly researching the subject and reaching out to other schools about the importance of addressing everything from cyberbullying, senior bullying, and child bullying. And she believes that she's making a difference. Today, Dr. Wajngurt has written several peer-reviewed articles and 2 books on the subject of workplace bullying prevention. She points out there are numerous colleges and universities that have incorporated anti-bullying policies, which is a monumental accomplishment, no question about that. However, she goes on to point out that workplace bullying issues have not been dealt with appropriately or tackled effectively. So she is continuing to work diligently with corporations until we're able to make true progress in promoting a positive workplace culture. Through her supportive, unparalleled one-on-one coaching and powerful workshops, she offers weary clients the support and the encouragement they need to handle and cope with workplace issues that are weighing them down caused by workplace bullying. Now, there you are, a little bit of the story of what we're going to be talking about today, and I think you will agree it's a very, very important subject and one that many of us are really not that familiar with. So it is a pleasure to bring our guest, Dr. Clara Wajngurt, to our microphones and say, Dr. Clara, how are you today? Nice to have you with us. How are you doing?
I'm feeling great. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, very accurate introduction, and I hope to explain the issue, and hopefully we can find some help with it.
Well, let me ask you a simple question. I mentioned that I'm not that familiar with this. It's a subject that you don't hear about. I don't read much about it in the press. I don't hear it talked about. Am I blind, or is this a subject that really is not being, getting the kind of exposure that it really needs? I have to be right about it.
Let me give you a better definition. The definition that you read was fine, but let's start out with a definition about bullying, and let's see what bullying actually does to a target. So it's a behavior, it's a hostile communication. It hurts, offends, excludes a person in the workplace, or even in life experience. But we're going to gear our conversation to workplace environments. It occurs repeatedly over a period of time. It occurs in an escalated manner. So the target basically lacks the power to defend himself or herself, and the target ends up in an inferior position. So I'm guessing that you never noticed these things happening. You were never the object of bullying. I, too, was never the object of bullying, but there is a lot of bullying happening around me, and we need to do something about it. So the way I look at it,
what I was going to point out is your point of bullying is kind of different than what I was thinking about. I was thinking about the way kids bully each other. They tease each other, and they're and they do stuff like that, or they ignore them. Nothing's worth for a child but to be ignored by all of her other, her friends. Things like that are forms of bullying. That's not the kind of bullying you're talking about. It doesn't go on like it's more sophisticated on the workplace.
Right, I understand.
Okay.
But the issue with children, it is also detrimental.
Of course.
We need to have a process, and there is a process, and there are laws for children, but not for adults. And what happens is these personal attacks, the ostracism, the humiliations, what it does to a person who's on the job, it causes shock, anger, frustration, helplessness, and then the person comes home, can't sleep, can't eat, feels sick to their stomach, has headaches and panic attacks. There's a lot of tension and stress, and sometimes they have an inability to concentrate. And I've seen this happen on the job, where a boss attacks someone on the team, and the person doesn't really know what to do. And after all, they can't really speak up because it is their boss. They're afraid to talk up. And so what happens is that's where the imbalance of power comes in. Now, when you talk about a boss,
about a boss bullying someone, you're talking about maybe a boss is publicly blaming someone for a problem that happened within the company or in the workplace, in their job, or with a client. Is it that kind of thing? Is that what you're talking about?
It's not only blaming.
Yeah.
It's excluding. So let's give you some examples. It's excluding someone from a committee assignment, not telling someone what the project is about, undermining a person in public at a department meeting. I've seen this happen. Threatening abuse. If you don't do X, you're going to have Y. Removing areas of responsibility without cause, or just establishing impossible deadlines. I've seen people in my college. They have a teaching schedule in the morning, and then they're given a teaching schedule, same schedule. They're free the entire day, and then the next time they teach is at 5 o'clock, let's say 5 p.m. So in other words. Yeah. That's sort of getting back at somebody. Maybe there's a gripe, or maybe the boss feels threatened by that person. There could be many reasons why that happens.
All right, I'm beginning to see what you're talking about. Maybe it's somebody who comes in and all of a sudden they get assigned to the night shift instead of the day shift, which they're, thought
and they don't want
what they would be doing.
Correct, and they don't want the night shift.
Of course, exactly.
And also, it's just establishing impossible deadlines, belittling somebody. Or someone has, let's say, I've seen this happen, someone has a disorder, and another person makes fun of them. Or let's say it's a tenure, since I'm familiar with the college and university environment, let's say someone's going up for tenure, and someone who's a full professor says to the person who's getting tenure, oh, you'll never do it. You don't have enough publications. You can't write. You don't know what to say. I mean, that's really belittling someone.
And it's a form of bullying. Well, when you bring it out like this, I'm beginning to understand what you're talking about. Again, I'm fascinated about this Workplace Bullying Institute. What do you know about that, and how long has that been around? Do you know?
Oh, they've been around for quite a while. I believe it just escaped me the name of the people who, and I'll probably think of it as we go along. But the ones who run it, it's a husband and wife team. They do a great job, and they try to reach out to someone who has been bullied. I believe in the university, but they could be reaching out to corporations as well. So they have been doing a wonderful job. They have counselors on the at where they work, and I don't know. They're really looking into a lot of details here.
Well, you've been, as I mentioned in the introduction, you've been speaking out to other schools and other universities and getting the word about this.
Yes.
What kind of reaction are you getting? I mean, are people sympathetic when they hear you talk about this subject? Do they understand it and recognize it?
So it's empathetic. They understand what I'm talking about. In fact, I didn't mention before, when a person is bullied, what happens on the job? They don't want to work. They don't want to work. They don't want to look at their boss. They have poor relationships on the job. They become absent. They become sick. They call in sick. And so people can identify with some of these actions and some of the feelings that happen with regard to bullying.
And they could end up losing their job because they're doing such a poor job, performance. Correct?
That's right. They lose their jobs. They try to look for other jobs. Maybe they're stopped. Maybe the boss doesn't want to give a recommendation.
There you go.
There's a lot of problems here.
So the question comes down to, there are two critical ones. What have you done to help make a difference, and how are you doing that? And the other is, what can somebody who's being bullied do about it?
Okay,
how do you recommend that what do they do?
Right. There's a couple of questions there. So let's first talk about what I'm doing.
Okay.
So what I did is I decided that I was a bystander. So I saw so much going on, but I couldn't speak up. I was moving up the ladder because when you speak up, people get threatened. If you speak up to your president and to your boss, to your department chairperson, they'll say, no, I'm not doing that. There'll be a denial. So I waited a couple of years till I moved up, and then I decided I have to do something about it. It's enough being a bystander, and I'm going to be an upstander. And what I'm going to do is talk about it and to find a way to provide effective tools, resources, support for those who've been bullied so they can cope skillfully with their jobs and their life experiences. So some of the tools what I started with, since I'm in the academic world, I started publishing about it. So I've published a number of articles, and I continue to publish on this topic. I wrote 2 books, which are on the website. I have a survey that I've done. I've done workshops in this area. I spoke recently in one of the colleges about workplace bullying, and I have another appointment in about a week or 2. I've gone to my community library and asked if I could speak on bullying as well. So I'm trying to work on that, and I'm always growing in my practice, trying to work on this. So this is what I'm trying to do. Okay, and I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Keep going. You're on a roll.
That's right. And what I've been doing is also I have coaching sessions where I work with someone on some need that they have that they want to work out. And my idea is to increase their capacity to be more effective on the job or in life in general, whatever they view as a problem. So the question that you raise is, what do you do when you're bullied? So the issue here is, who is bullying you? You have really three people who are affected by this. There's the target, the one who's being bullied. There's the bully, himself or herself. And there's the bystander, the one who sees this happening. So if the boss is the bully, and we know that the boss bullies a number of people on the job, then you want to build alliances with your coworkers and to find out if the boss has targeted any one of them. So then you start documenting everything, and you formalize your communications. And if you talk to the boss, sometimes I recommend having a third party as a witness to the conversation. And again, you need to document date, time, and circumstances. And if you can report abuse to a senior manager who is not an ally of your boss, who's the bully.
Right.
And then in your argument, you can talk about turnover rate, lowered morale on the job, reduced productivity, increased absenteeism. How can we solve these problems? How can we solve these legal fees that can possibly happen, from threatened lawsuits against the bully's behavior? So you want to propose a solution. Even part of the solution is disciplining the bully. And the idea is, part of the solution is you'd recommend that your managers and supervisors be trained to recognize and to deal with workplace bullying. You want them to be upfront about unreasonable behavior that happens on their job. Sometimes, why does it happen? There's deadlines on the job that you wanted to have the day before. Has there been a change in your workplace, in the who's running your place? And so what happens is there's a change in morale. You would like to have a workplace bullying policy if you can do that. So this is what you do if your boss is the bully. The question is, how do you handle it if it's a team member who is the bully? And again, the idea is that you want to be on a good terms with people on your job. You want to have collaboration and cooperation with people on your job. And so the question is, what will you do if it's a team member? So hopefully this is something that you can discuss with your boss in that case, if you're being victimized by people who are not your boss. So what you do is you think about the problem in a non-judgmental way. What effect is the problem having on you? This is when you're bullied by a team member. You want to state your concerns. So in other words, you organize your thoughts in a way so that you can present this to your boss or to your boss's boss and make specific suggestions or requests on how the situation can be handled. And again, documentation is very, very important. And ask your boss, in this case the boss is not the bully, what do they think? Ask for feedback. Maybe the boss can talk to the bully and find out how we can amend the situation and make it better. So in your question, it depends on who is the bully. If it's the boss, there's one approach. If it's a team member, it's another approach.
I understand. I think that's all great advice. Do you, by the way, have some examples of people who have done this and it's helped? The situation has been cured or at least improved, and the bullying stops. How about that?
The bullying is always it's always possible to be reignited. So you want to have some process in place to put the bullying under control. I mean, that's really what it is. We all have certain characters, and so it's hard to deal with sometimes. So, yes, I'm thinking of some examples. Some of my colleges in my CUNY University have an ombudsperson who's a neutral person, someone you could go and talk to confidentially, talk about what happened, what's the problem in the sense that I described, what's the concern, how do we deal with it, and the ombudsperson will work with you, and if there's permission, we'll talk to your boss, to your managers, whoever is the so-called instigator of the problem. So one way to work with this is the ombudsperson, okay, and I've seen that happen on my job.
Well, that's good advice. I wonder if that's kind of available in most corporate situations. I'm not sure, but
I'm not sure
they should
either.
Find out. Yeah, I don't either.
What they need to do is talk to human resources. Maybe that's another avenue. Or
maybe so.
And talk to someone if they're confidential, and they won't pass judgment on you. Or perhaps talking to a colleague and seeing what can be done.
You know, that's possible too. That's a very good advice.
Right.
I was going to ask you. You were a corporate coach. I mean, you were a coach.
Yes.
And you coach people. And I assume this is one of the subjects you deal with when you're coaching an individual. Did people come to you because of this and wanting your help from a coach's aspect?
I've had a couple of opportunities since I've started this. I've been doing this for a few years already. One person came to me from a different state, heard about me on the internet, and she had some problems with her chairperson. I didn't have time to fly down to be with her, and she spoke to her chair. So I tried to guide her through the process of how to deal with her chair and what she should do. But in corporations, I mean, it's a little bit different. You have to know what the angle is and who's there and what the hierarchy is. Now, the other people who I've had a couple of people who I worked with and am working with, so I serve as a life coach for them. So basically there's some issue that comes up. I have a problem with my boyfriend, or I'm having a problem achieving something, or I feel very shy about doing something, without getting into all these details. But again, I work with a certain issue and try to build them up. And I'm not the one who tells them what to do. What they do is through questioning, through guiding them through certain questions, they're able to figure out answers that fit for themselves, and come up with solutions.
Well, I think that's very good advice, and I'm not surprised at all that that's the way you handle it. It's so hard to, be put in someone else's position to give them concrete advice that may not work in the situation they're located in. I'm interested to know a little. You have a really great website with a lot of information, and you say you've written 2 books on the subject. You've written a brochure on it.
Yes.
By the way, you have a Clara YouTube channel. What is that all about? Tell me about that.
I'm trying to get the word out. I want people to be aware of the situation of what bullying is about, because it happens. I mean, you're very lucky, Doug, that you've never seen or heard of bullying on the job. I mean, this is amazing, and I'm very grateful to hear that. But if you think carefully and you watch, and I'm not saying that you don't, but if you watch human interaction and the way people talk to one another, you can see the nuances. Bullying is a nuance on how people relate to one another. So I have 2 marketers who work with me, build up my website. I'm on social media all over the place. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, I think what is it? Reddit, not Reddit. Tumblr, Pinterest. I'm on a number of websites, social media. Yes, LinkedIn.
You're with it.
Yes, my marketers have put me out there.
That's good.
And they draw beautiful. They have beautiful advertising because they know that I'm very passionate about this and I'd like to solve the problem. I mean, the question is, will it ever be solved? And it's getting harder and harder, this issue. And so they every week I write a blog on bullying, and so I get it out, and I'm trying to write articles all the time so people will be aware in the academic and non-academic communities. So I'm constantly working on this weekly, on this issue. Does that answer your question?
By the way, let me just say something. Don't get the idea that I've never experienced it. Maybe my situation is that I didn't recognize what was going on was a form of bullying. Do you understand what I mean?
Of course I admit, and that's part of the problem. Sometimes we're bullied and we don't know we're being bullied. That's part of the problem.
There you go. Okay, that makes sense because I'm sure I've had situations where I've been teed off or whatever you want to say about a certain situation in the job, but I didn't recognize it as bullying. I considered it, they're picking on me, or I'm getting screwed, to use a common vernacular.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So let's get back to, again, what you're doing. You have brochures. You do newsletters. Every month you spit out a newsletter. Do you write a newsletter?
Yes. That's right.
I'm saying things I normally don't say.
Or spit it out. That's right.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
But I think that's great. Now tell me about your books, because I'm not familiar with the books.
So I geared one book towards higher education, and I geared another book towards the corporate end. And obviously I had to be familiar. Higher education I'm very familiar with, and corporations I've heard a lot about through friends and family. And essentially the purpose of that book is to market what I'm doing as a coach. And I go through what is bullying, why the target is affected by this, why there are bullies, what can we do about it. I go through solutions, but I also, the purpose of the two books, which are on the website, is to discuss about my coaching approach. And if you're interested, I'm here to help you. But I'm also here to get the word out and to speak about it.
And that's what we're doing right now. I think it's important.
Right,
let me give your website out, because this is where people can go to, number one, get the information on what you do, the brochures, the books, and not only that, but how to get in direct contact with you, because your website is bullyingpreventionconsulting.com.
Correct.
bullyingpreventionconsulting.com. Now, if people are hearing you in California right now and they might want to consult with you or talk to you, they don't have to be in New York City to get your help, right?
No,
you can do this on the phone with them. Am I right?
Of course, and my phone number is there on the site. I'm happy to give you my phone number as well. Don't
give it on the air, but it's on the website. They can get
They'll
that
see
there.
It.
Well, I got to tell you, this has been a fascinating discussion. Dr. Clara Wajngurt of New York City, she lives there. She's a professor at CUNY, and she is an advocate for stopping bullying in the workplace. And maybe you're being bullied yourself and you just really didn't consider it. Anyway, this is a great subject to talk about. Dr. Clara Wajngurt. Dr. Clara, thank you so much for being with us. It's been very interesting.
Thank you very much.
Indeed.
I've enjoyed talking with you.
Continued good luck. Go get him, girl. Okay?
Thank you. We will.
All right. You are welcome. Well, that's it for today. Again, the website is bullyingpreventionconsulting.com. I hope you're not being bullied, but if you are, there is one source where you can get some help and some advice, and you should use it. Okay? Very good. Thanks so much for being with us. Enjoyed it, folks.
You've been listening to CUTV News Radio. If you want to learn more about our programming or perhaps be considered for a future show, visit us on the web at www.cutvnews.com. And if you enjoyed listening to today's show, Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher, and be sure to write a review. Thanks for listening, and from all of us at CUTV News Radio, we hope you have a productive and inspired day.
Well, that's it for now. I'm Doug Llewellyn. We thank you for being with us. See you next time, everybody. Take care.